Today on No Things Considered, the media just loves Obama. How dare the cabinet compliment Trump? Jeb Bush makes us all feel so sad. And former president of WCW Eric Bischoff talks wrestling and politics. And now here's your host, Tim Young.
Welcome to No Things Considered. My name is Tim Young. You can tell because it's right there. It's like a reading lesson. It's like Tim Young, and then you see Tim Young right there on the... Forget it. Yesterday, all the cabinet members at Trump's cabinet meeting said positive things about him, and the media went crazy. Let's start by showing you the clip of the CIA Director Mike Pompeo refusing to say anything in front of the media, though. This one, pretty classic.
President's honored to serve as your CIA Director. It's an incredible privilege to lead the men and women who are providing intelligence so that we can do the national security mission. And in the finest tradition of the CIA, I'm not going to say a damn thing in front of the media.
Smart, very smart by Director Pompeo there. Why would you say anything in front of the media? But it doesn't matter because I'm sure unnamed sources are going to come up with whatever he said anyway, and then it'll be in the New York Times and the Washington Post. That wasn't the story yesterday, though. The story was that every cabinet member had something positive to say about Donald Trump. And the media went crazy and said that, well, this is like some sort of weird environment where like everyone's worshiping him. I mean, it didn't remind them of the last 8 years with Barack Obama.
Barack Obama, the rising rock star.
It's about Barack Obama, the rock star.
His rock star popularity.
He's so informed, he's circumspect, he's articulate, he's thoughtful.
If you love me,
everything he's done is clean as a whistle.
It amazes me that people don't love Obama.
I mean, come on. They're saying that the cabinet complimenting Donald Trump is too much. They kissed Barack Obama's ass for the last 8 to 10 years. They're still kissing it now while he's out there speaking poorly about the president and everything that's going on in the world. That he created, by the way. All the bad things that happened in the world are basically his foreign policy, Barack Obama. But let's forget about it. He's still the greatest thing that ever happened, and they're worshiping him. Take a look at this picture, especially of Ellen here. This is her farewell. It was a 6-minute farewell I'm not going to bother you with because I don't need you guys throwing up your dinners. She started to cry. She literally started to cry because the President of the United States was leaving office. But it's ridiculous that the cabinet members had positive things to say about Donald Trump. Okay. All right. I don't know what fantasy land you're living in. Oh, you're living in the fantasy land where you go and interview former Barack Obama aides and pretend that they're just normal people in the street. You'll see what I'm talking about in a second.
Congress on Thursday, and now we're hearing reaction from people across the country about whether Comey or President Trump is more believable.
The clear message is that you should not continue with this investigation.
Where there's smoke, there's fire. And the fact that he would make a very specific request to have everybody else leave the office so that he would be alone with Comey, for me, speaks volumes.
That was Alma Vivian Marquez. Take a look at her right there. Now, she looks like a normal person on the street that just happens to be really dressed up to be on MSNBC. Turns out she was actually Barack Obama's get out the vote leader for California for Latinos. So, yeah, MSNBC, just talking to regular old people, just normal human beings walking on the street. Nothing to see here, anybody. No staged news. She has lots of positive things to say, I'm sure. Trump. Anyway, my favorite reporter over at the Daily Caller, Amber Athey, had 2 great articles yesterday. The first, did you know that Hillary Clinton was going to lose the battleground states? Because Joe Biden did. Oh, Joe. He just came out of his drunk coma of 85 Miller Lights in 2 days. And he spoke at a convention yesterday where he said, man, I knew it. I knew it was going to happen. It's easy to Monday morning quarterback, by the way. But I think what he's really saying, he's crying out from inside, I could have won. I would have been president. Poor Joe. Poor Joe. So sad. Sucks to suck. Sucks to suck. Also, speaking of sucks to suck, poor Jeb. Oh my God. Jeb Bush asked if he thought Donald Trump was guilty of obstruction of justice. And his response was, no, but who cares what I think? Oh man. Jeb is just depressing. Let's make it even more depressing for you. We pulled this clip out of our file of just watch it and just it's between crying and laughing. But just
So right after his little speech, he walked over to me and gave me this little tortoise and said, "Slow and steady wins the race." So.
Or did have a bunch of tortoise.
got the little baby Jesus. Got my rosary beads.
Oh, poor Joe. Who are you?
I'm Amber Athey. You just said I was your favorite reporter at the Daily Caller.
Oh, this is really awkward. Okay. In other news, Fareed Zakaria says that you should go check out that new Julius Caesar play in Central Park. It's a masterpiece. Of course, he would love it and CNN would love it because it's a masterpiece that shows Donald Trump getting killed. Seriously, these guys don't even hide their bias anymore. Just watch the clip. We're not going to show you much of it.
To look just like President Donald Trump as he's assassinated on stage. Look as his character is stabbed to death. And there's no mistaking the Trump connection. Check out the unbuttoned overcoat and red tie that hangs over his waist.
Oh, that's right. What a masterpiece, guys. Fareed Zakaria and the people at CNN would love this. Can you imagine? If that would have been Barack Obama on stage, they would have been screaming treason and asking for every actor in that stage to be arrested and investigated for threatening to kill the president because, double standards. Speaking of double standards, while they're going on and on about their Russian conspiracy theories, they're upset that the right's own conspiracy theorist, number one, Alex Jones, is going to be interviewed and brought to legitimacy, apparently, on Sunday by Megyn Kelly. When I say brought to legitimacy and their fear of this, just watch a clip of what they're talking about and see if anybody should be worried.
They call you the most paranoid man in America. Is that true?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not. No, he's definitely not the most paranoid man in America. Except for that whole animal-human hybrid thing.
30 years ago, they began creating animal-human hybrids. Isn't that the big story Megyn Kelly should be doing?
Do I even need to make a joke about that? I'm sorry, you can probably hear my hoofs clopping. What's wrong with get your tinfoil out, ladies and gentlemen, because Sunday Night with Megyn Kelly is going nutty and making Alex Jones legitimate. He sells defluorination caplets for your water because you don't want fluoride in your water. You want to add some sort of way to defluorinate it. Maybe you guys can explain that in the comments today. That and chemtrails. That's another fun one. We should do a whole episode on conspiracy theories on both sides. Woo! I don't think we have to worry about him getting legitimate anytime soon. He's got a hell of a business, though. Hell of a business. Anyway, the other day, President Jimmy Carter flew coach. And I knew this because like 35 videos of him going through and shaking everybody's hand were shown online. Now, listen, I think it's great. I think it's really cool that he went around and shook everybody's hand on the plane. Unless you actually needed to get somewhere, because that took about like a half hour. That delayed the plane taking off. And sure, it's an honor, but maybe do it while you're in flight, Jimmy. So I'm just complaining for the people on the plane. Sure, it was, again, honor, but wait for the seatbelt unbuckle sign when you're midair, just so people can get to their destination on time. I don't know. And finally tonight, the other day, the media went crazy because Donald Trump visited a wedding at his New Jersey golf course.
Beautiful bride.
Funny, I thought women hated him, didn't they? Don't women hate Donald Trump? I thought he was offensive to women. I thought he hated women too, and looked like that bride was really excited to see him. By the way, they acted like this was a surprise, but I'd imagine that the first 30 minutes of black SUVs and men showing up with guns and sunglasses on, the Secret Service, were a little bit intimidating. Like, what? Somebody getting arrested at this wedding? Like, what's happening? Why are we being stupid right now? Oh, it's Donald Trump! Like the first half hour, panic. And then 5 minutes of excitement to see the president. But again, women are supposed to hate the president. How about them? Yesterday I had a chance to sit down and talk with the former CEO of World Championship Wrestling. He also was the characters on TV. He was the head of the NWO. He made Hulk Hogan a bad guy. And he also was the general manager of Monday Night Raw. Eric Bischoff. Now, Eric Bischoff currently has a podcast, Bischoff on Wrestling, every Wednesday night. You can listen to that on iTunes. But we wanted to sit down and talk to him about what he thought about pro wrestling's influence on politics. I mean, we're seeing a lot of interaction now. I mean, Linda McMahon is head of the Small Business Administration. And also, if you take a look at things in politics, it seems like we're getting more and more catchphrases and more theatrics. Anyway, his insight is pretty incredible. And we find out who he would throw in a dump truck at the end of this. So take a look. Eric Bischoff, thanks for joining us on No Things Considered. I wanted to start off because of your experience in entertainment and professional wrestling in general. When you take a look at the last presidential election, it really looks like the candidates and just the entire environment that they were in had become more like pro wrestling. We had Rick Perry came out to a tailored theme song just for himself. I think we saw the emergence of more catchphrases, and the theatrics overall have just kind of gone over the top. How much of an influence do you think professional wrestling has had on that and our culture in general?
I don't know that professional wrestling necessarily has had a direct influence on politics, but I think because politics has become so much more about identity politics than true politics, it's a natural evolution. People don't really understand the issues anymore. People don't really understand the history. People are just relating to personalities and characters as opposed to real political issues. So I think it appears as though it looks more like professional wrestling, but I just think it's because, quite honestly, I think our political process has deteriorated to the point where it's just about bumper sticker mentality and characters.
Do you think we bounce back as a culture then from that?
I don't. I think we've gone so far down the tube that I don't think there's any coming back. It would take some kind of an amazing leader to bring the right and the left and the ultra-conservatives and the ultra-liberals to some kind of reasonable middle ground that we experienced, back in the late 80s, even into the early 90s, even under Bill Clinton. There was a safe, sane middle ground that I think is evaporated into, like I said, nuclear identity politics.
Now, I'd imagine that you have a very unique perspective, not just on politics, but just in culture in general, not just from what you did, but because you've traveled the country for so long and got to interact with so many different types of people. Could you have predicted the outcome of the last election because of that?
It's tempting, it's tempting to take advantage of 20/20 hindsight and make yourself sound really smart. I was so hopeful that Republicans would win. I certainly didn't think Donald Trump would. He was not my candidate in the primaries. Marco Rubio was. I was very hopeful that conservatives would win, just because I could see, or at least from my perspective, how far down the liberal ideology was taking our culture and our country and our economy. But I never could have predicted Donald Trump. Never in a million years.
Yeah, it was an interesting one, I think, for everybody. I'm inside the bubble, but I get to travel a lot as a comic, so it was very unique. Why do you think, why Marco Rubio for you?
Foreign policy. Listening to the debates, to me, he seemed to really have a handle on the foreign policy issues. I like the fact that he's a younger, more open-minded conservative, if you will, but I really, really was impressed with his knowledge of foreign policy.
Now, this is an interesting question. I thought, of course, because I came up with it. I think all my questions are interesting.
Of course, that works.
If you could create, because you've created so many characters throughout the years, if you could create the perfect political candidate, what would they look like? National political candidate.
What would they look like physically, or what would they look like as a
just
character
in general,
or personality?
I don't know that physically makes a difference, but as far as personality, messaging, things like that.
I think, if you look at the strength of Donald Trump, which was that he spoke to the heartland, he spoke to the middle of America, to the red states, if you will. He was very direct. He was very honest. Too much so, in my opinion. I think his skill sets as an orator leave a lot to be desired. But the fact that he was able to strike a nerve within so many people who felt disenfranchised from the political process, I think is important. Ronald Reagan did the same thing. Ronald Reagan had the ability to communicate to the average American and not talk over their head. So my ideal candidate, if I was creating one, would be someone who was articulate, that was a good orator, but didn't talk over the heads of his constituency or the politic in general. Honesty and integrity would be it. Someone that would be willing to admit a mistake and move on. But first and foremost, it would have to be somebody that could really just communicate and reach people, much like Ronald Reagan did.
You have run many organizations, both fictionally and in real life. Would you ever run for office?
No, brother. I've got so many skeletons in my closet. I mean, even compared to a Donald Trump, I got too many skeletons in my closet. And not that I'm afraid to look at them every now and then, but I wouldn't want to have to deal with that every day. And I think it says a lot, unfortunately, it says a lot in the wrong way about where politics are in this country, because real quality people, nobody's perfect. We all have flaws. We all have things in our history that we don't necessarily want revealed to death, in a 24-hour, news cycle, 7 days a week, 52 weeks a year. And I think, what's happening now is the people that are willing to run just don't care anymore. They're not the kind of quality people that should be running for office. I personally, I wouldn't put myself through it. I've got pretty thick skin. I've been through a lot already, but I wouldn't want to put my family through it. I wouldn't want to put my friends through it. It's just, it's gotten too carnivorous, cannibalistic would probably be a better way to say it. I mean, we're cannibalizing each other in the name of politics, and I just wouldn't want to participate in that.
All right, last one, and this is last question, and this one's sort of wrestling related. I wasn't going to touch any wrestling questions other than this. The last time we saw you, one of the last times we saw you on TV, you were removed with a garbage truck. Who from DC would you like to see removed via garbage truck?
Wow. Right now, James Comey.
I think a lot of people would agree with you. Why is that?
Yeah, no, because I think he's just, to me, I got to be careful because I'm one of the cannibals that I complain about here. But, I was, he was available to me intermittently. But, when I dropped in and reading some of his testimony, I think he's just such a political hack and has been from day one. I think, the nature of the way he handled the Hillary Clinton email investigation, the fact that he succumbed to Loretta Lynch and, basically was her puppet within that investigation. The way he handled everything from July 5th on, to me, was hideous. And I think he's done probably more damage to American politics than any other single person right now, including Barack Obama and Donald Trump.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Eric. Where can we go and listen to all your stuff? I know you've got a really cool podcast. Tell our viewers about that.
Yeah, my podcast is available Wednesday evenings. It's called Bischoff on Wrestling, and we do cover politics every once in a while. My co-host is a young liberal from Chicago, so inevitably we'll clash during that podcast. Primarily it's about wrestling, though, but we do talk about the convergence of the two quite a bit. So it gets fun and entertaining. But you can find us on iTunes. We've been up for a while now and doing pretty well, so check it out.
Cool. And I listen, and I'm sure a lot of our viewers listen. I know when I wear a pro wrestling T-shirt, I get a pop out of them, so it's always fun. So thanks for being on, and everybody go tune in to Bischoff on Wrestling Wednesday nights, iTunes. You can get it. Thank you, Eric Bischoff, for coming on the show. I think it's pretty interesting that he would throw James Comey in a garbage truck to get him hauled out of town. I think a lot of people would agree with him. Check out Bischoff on Wrestling Wednesday nights. He also talks about politics on his podcast on iTunes. And you can also see a bunch of his old stuff and great clips on the WWE Network. So you can go check that out over there after you're finished watching our show, of course. Tomorrow night we have Steve Russell on the show, Congressman Steve Russell. We're going to be talking about government waste and abuse, one of my favorite topics. We're going to see a lot of garbage that the government wastes money on. You're going to get pretty pissed off at. So thanks for watching the show. That's it for tonight. We will see you tomorrow night and every weeknight here, 7:30 p.m. You can check out all the cool stuff on the Daily Caller's Facebook page, dailycaller.com, and dailycallerNewsFoundation.org. I did that all in one breath. Click the like button, share it, smiley face. I don't care what, if you want to click that angry face, it's a personal problem. It's a personal problem. Anyway, I'll see you tomorrow night.
I just realized you're wearing a green shirt.